I could. It'll be somewhat organic. How's that?
That's on my tombstone. Somewhat
Somewhat
organic.
organic.
See, this what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna talk about a boogie woogie, and I'm gonna play one.
The full name of the show is Better Off Dad with Paul and Steve. The idea is we're trying to figure out how to do the right thing when things are hard. And we've both decided that each of us is better off dad. That
Yeah.
was my point. Because better off dads sounds too much like we are dads who are better off. No.
It
We
also it also kind of sounds like a '90s sitcom that would have like a pair of twins in it.
like some cute twins,
Yeah.
like somebody's uncle. I'm thinking of that Full House show.
That's
It'd be like
that's
that.
exactly
Better
that's
off dads.
exactly what yeah.
But we've
Everywhere you
decided
go.
we've
Sorry.
decided that not only are each of us better off dad, but society in general will be better off because we are dad.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are better dads. And I'll just sit here and say that right now. I am a better dad than a lot of people are
Yeah.
better. Thank goodness we are
I mean,
dad.
yeah, the proof's in the pudding, man.
Hey, if you haven't heard, this is episode 2. If you haven't heard episode 1, feel free to go check that out. You don't have to. These are independent
Yeah.
shows. They stand alone. Check out Big Broccoli Studios' other great shows, which are also in the same feed as this one for now. This one may get its own feed someday, but for now, it's in the Don't Panic Radio Show feed. So check out those other shows from Big Broccoli Studios, especially Mysterious Traveler, New Tales of the Mysterious Traveler,
I say it
Paul,
too, so
Paul's old time radio masterpiece.
thank you.
Yeah, and we're working hard on these new scripts. I've actually did some work on the script that I was
I
working
was
on.
gonna ask. I didn't want to
Yeah,
put any
yeah.
pressure on you since the format for how we were going to do that episode has changed, and you can blow the script up a little bit more. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna work out. Work. I've said work about 15 times. Nobody wants to work. Really? I do.
So speaking of nobody wanting to work, what do you call that? What's the saying about when somebody falls face first right into the point? You heard that
Oh,
saying? It's like
yeah.
well, here's a classic example. It's
Running face first into the point and still missing it.
yes, it's something like that,
The point
which
didn't
is
go over your
ironic,
head. The point didn't go over your head. It slammed right into your forehead,
and
and
you
you still
still
missed
missed it.
it.
Yep. But my older brother, he works for one of the an independent moving company, and they're pretty big, Well, they've been having he's one of these guys that always complains about, kids today, nobody wants to work. I went into Hardee's and there was nobody working in there. They don't want they won't work for $20 an hour, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, he has serious debilitating back problems and whatnot from a lifetime of slave labor, servitude. But
Wage slavery.
wage slavery. Well, I was having a conversation with my mom the other day, and she had brought up how the problem that he's having is the people that they do hire don't want to work. And they're always on their phones. And I was like, put make them put the phones away. It's not that difficult. Why won't the why won't these kids why won't the people running the show control the show? Well, there's other things like you got to tell them what to do. They have no life skills. I'm like, well, if they can't hire decent workers, they need to change their hiring policy. Well, they can't. Yeah, they can. They're business. It's this kind of stuff. Well, finally, my brother decides he and his other coworker, these guys have been with this company for decades. They got the brilliant idea, all on their own, to walk off the job
Oh boy. Because they don't want to
until
work.
until their working conditions improve.
Oh my God. Seriously.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm doing this thing like, like it's almost like that episode of The Simpsons where uh Homer's like driving like a maniac trying to get Lisa somewhere, and he's da 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 da, and he's doing classical music, and she's in the back seat going, "I'm reaching him." But I don't put a lot of faith in that because I think ironically he doesn't realize that he just joined the Great Resignation. It's
So
like
that's wild. Let me unpack that a little bit. There's so
okay.
much to unpack there. I feel like I just got back from vacation. We're gonna have to unpack, do laundry, put everything away. That's why you need a day after you get back from vacation. You take an extra day off, everybody.
Who are you
Life
kidding?
advice.
You wait about a week and empty that suitcase.
I'm still not unpacked from my last vacation. Life skills. Speaking of life skills. So
Yeah.
anyway, let's unpack. Let's start to unpack. Okay, first of all,
Deep breath.
So yeah, okay. I'm revising my earlier statement. The point didn't hit him in the forehead. It was like a shotgun. It hit him in the forehead, the chin, the chest, the stomach. So he's saying nobody wants to work these days.
Mm-hmm.
And he decided, along with his friend, that because the working conditions, the business had not properly put systems in place to make things good for the workers and satisfactory for the workers, meaning him and his friend. Therefore, they were going to walk off the job and not work.
Yes.
Okay. So nobody wants to work.
Nobody wants to work.
Nobody wants to work he would probably say, no, it's not that I don't want to work. It's that I don't want to work under those conditions for that amount of pay.
They don't pay me enough for this job.
So it's not predictable. It's not safe. It's not a good work environment, and they don't pay me enough for the work that they're asking me to do. Therefore, I do want to work, but not under those conditions. Like, yes, that's true. Now replace I with they.
It's
Replace I don't want to work under those conditions with this is called late stage capitalism, folks. People are going, we don't want to work under those conditions, right?
Yeah. It's like he almost had what alcoholics refer to as a moment of clarity. And that replace I with we reminds me of the old Friends joke where Phoebe's trying to teach Joey French and he keeps messing it up.
Oh, right. people don't want to work under those conditions. Nobody wants to work.
And that's so I was relaying this story to my lady friend Amy, and I'm like, I get done with it, and she's like, just like you, but there's too much to unpack here. And she goes, and besides that, who really wants to work?
Lady friend Amy.
Yes.
Good one, lady friend Amy.
Well, because when you're 65 years old, you have to have lady friends. You don't have girlfriends anymore.
You're not 65 years old. Let's break this down. Sure. That's a good story, by the way. Good story. He'll never get it. He'll never get the irony of what's happening here.
It's like it almost turned into like a wonder years later. I could hear myself narrating as an older man this moment in my life. It's just so out of body experience.
I've seen this a lot. I've heard it a lot. The nobody wants to work trope. as it were. I had the conversation with my dad, right? So I actually looked a few things up in preparation for today's show.
Uh-oh.
So in the past year, over 6 million jobs have been created, right? That makes sense because we're coming out of a pandemic. All right, statistics. So if you look at the past year, this is the past year. This is Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's the government. That's the deep state. That ain't true. Oh, come on.
If you're, I know words.
Yeah, right. Well, send us your statistics then. Total non-farm jobs created 6.1 million in the past year. Right. Makes sense. Okay, here is since 2002. Total unemployed is in the red. Total job openings is this green, and total people who quit is in the blue. So you see this spike here. Who was president during this spike? Anyway, these are pandemics. Forced shutdowns and all that kind of stuff meant a lot of unemployed people, right? So what we're seeing now is we're recovering from a pandemic. Okay, so job openings went down, and now they're coming back up because we're exiting a pandemic. So in the past year alone, between here and here, something like 6 million jobs were created, right? And people have been quitting at higher numbers too. So, credit where it's due to the nobody wants to work crowd. Yes, more people have been quitting lately. So anyway, that's what it looks like. So 6 million jobs over the past year. The other thing that's happened in the past year, 400,000 people have died from COVID in the U.S. So you got 6 million new jobs, 400,000 fewer people to take them. The other thing is, and this is one that I haven't heard a lot of talk about, but after contracting COVID myself recently, I get it. Even though I'm fine now. Of the 55 million new cases that have occurred over the past year in the U.S., something like just over 1 million of them still experience symptoms after 3 months. So long COVID.
Yeah.
So you didn't die, but I tell you what, you get COVID, you know it. And I know you and I both got it before it became a thing.
Before it was cool.
Before anybody knew it was in the U.S., we both got it. You don't feel like working. It's not, nobody wants to work. You don't want people working while they have COVID. And if you're feeling that way, you don't want to work. So that's 1.3 million people, right? So there are fewer unemployed people now than there were before the pandemic. So go back over to my, this has suddenly turned into this is like school. It's like, you're just going to be on the test. So there are fewer, if you look at the unemployed persons right here, it's like fewer unemployed people now than before the pandemic. So people are like, oh, Trump's economy before the pandemic was great. Set aside the fact that like it'd be like going, oh, the football team was winning after 3 quarters, so they're a really good team. It's like, no, they lost by 40 points because they lost it in the 4th quarter. Yeah, but they were winning at the end of the 3rd quarter. That's how I view people going, yeah, the economy was doing great before the pandemic. Yeah, but there was a pandemic, and it was his job to make things go well during the pandemic, and he failed. Right.
And it was completely botched and 100% avoidable.
Yes, 100%. But setting that aside, okay, well, forget the pandemic for a second. Look at before the pandemic, and there are now, under the Biden economy, fewer unemployed than under the Trump economy pre-pandemic, right? So the nobody wants to work thing, it's like this argument I had with my dad. He's like, I don't understand. Like, there were people working before. Where are all those people? I'm like, they're working now.
Yeah.
A lot of them, right?
Yep.
So you go to restaurants that were closed during the pandemic, they're now open. There are servers and cashiers and hosts and all that stuff. They're there.
One of the conversations I had too was when we were sitting in the Burger King parking lot, and right across the street from the Burger King parking lot is the Arby's parking lot. Now, Arby's, I don't know how it is by you, but by us, they have not reopened their lobby.
Oh, well.
It is just the drive-through.
Good.
Now, whoever...
I like going to restaurant lobbies.
well, you know, dining room. I don't know what you call it.
Continue.
Anyway, the argument is, look, they can't even get people to work the front cash register because nobody wants to work. They're just using the drive-through. They can only get enough people for the drive-through. I'm like, no, if you look at a scale of which fast food restaurants make the most and which to the least, Arby's ain't in the top 5. Okay. What Arby's figured out was, wait a minute, we don't have to pay people. We don't have to keep this area open. We only need a bare minimum skeleton crew to run the drive-through.
Sure.
But no matter
That's
how many, no matter how you, well, okay, like the graph that you showed.
Mhm.
Show that graph. Where'd you get that? Google? What? Yeah, that graph. No, regardless of what you can show them to change their mind, they've got an
Two,
argument
two
that
things
doesn't.
work. The,
Okay.
two things work. Now, this is for conspiracy theories, but
Mhm.
I think political leaning probably applies there too. And studies have shown two things work. One is logic, and the other is ridicule.
Okay.
So I will stick to ridicule and logic every time. Facts, as it turns out, makes no appreciable difference. Like,
Yeah.
so just showing somebody facts doesn't work. So I can't just say, like, if I had some evidence that people want to work and tried to use that as, see, here's a fact that counteracts your statement that nobody wants to work. I have found some people who want to
Mhm.
work. Presenting that as a fact won't change anybody's mind because
Mhm.
they'll do exactly what you just said, which is, oh, well, anybody, you can make up anything you want, right? And call it a fact. But logic will work.
Okay.
And so the case here is, okay, you don't like this chart, find your own chart, right? I'm not saying this is 100% correct. But the thing we all agree with is there were a lot of unemployed people during the pandemic. There are a lot fewer unemployed people now than during the pandemic. Can't argue with that. I don't care where I got this chart. I could have pulled it out of my ass. But we all agree that there are fewer unemployed people now than there were during the pandemic, right? Now you might go, yeah, but I don't know if I agree that there are fewer unemployed people than before the pandemic. I'm like, okay, fine. My only point here is we had a pandemic that a lot of jobs were created. Bureau of Labor Statistics says over 6 million. You can disagree with the number, but there have been millions of jobs created, right?
Mhm.
A lot of people died of COVID. A lot of people remain sick with COVID. So there are fewer people to take the jobs.
Mhm.
Now, here's where I will agree. People are quitting at higher numbers than before the pandemic, right? Which again stands to reason, right? Because
Mhm.
working conditions have become much harder. Whether you
Mhm.
agree with masks and social distancing and all that stuff, it's a fact that happened, and you can't disagree. Yes, people had to wear masks. Yes, people had to social distance, and yes, that created a lot of strain on the workforce, right? So of course people are quitting. The other thing is what you brought up at the beginning. Now we come full circle. Late stage capitalism,
You're
right?
you're like Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia with the map. You know.
Yeah. So what do I mean? What we've seen happen over the last 10 years. I'm going to try to abbreviate this a little bit because it could take an hour to go through this, but it'll make sense as soon as you hear it, right? If you think about where we get our stuff, right? We get it from Amazon, or we order it from eBay, or it's
Mhm.
a lot of stuff we order. Or maybe you do go to a local shop, but it's usually a Meijer or a Walmart or a big chain
Yeah.
conglomerate kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? What that does is it's harvesting all the profits, right, from the local area and sending them to either where Walmart's based in
Yeah.
Arkansas, or it sends it to Pacific Northwest. Oh, that's Google. I'll get to Google next. No, Google is in California, or it sends it to wherever Bezos is. Where the hell's Bezos? I don't know where he is.
Space, I think.
Wherever Amazon is, right? All of that money is going to them, right? And it's not staying in our local community.
Right.
So Tesla is another example of that. There used to be, their model is not dealerships. Their model is sell from corporate, and all the profit goes back to corporate instead of the local dealership, right?
Yeah.
So it centralizes all that wealth, and that's why Bezos and Branson and Elon Musk, that's why they're able to go to space, right?
Yeah.
Because they've got these billions of dollars that used to stay in the community, and you could pay workers more. You could adjust workers' working conditions because if word got out in the local area that, Joe's mom and pop, diner, or Joe's mom and pop shoe store or whatever, shitty place to work. Yeah, nobody would go work there, and they would have trouble getting people, so they would have to improve. But now, why does Amazon have to improve working conditions when, okay, you can work here or go work at Walmart or Meijer or,
Yeah.
go work at one of those places. They don't pay any better than we do, and working conditions aren't any better than our working conditions, right?
Yeah.
So add to that, I read this one because I'll go work at McDonald's or something, right? Or Arby's in your example, or Wendy's or wherever. Their whole model, when you had manufacturing, and I don't want to sound like a Reagan Democrat or anything like that, or they shipped all our jobs overseas. I don't want to. They took our jobs. I don't want to be that guy. But if you think about like manufacturing versus service, the big cost in manufacturing is raw materials. Labor is a big part of it too, but huge costs with manufacturing. Plus, I mean, with raw materials. Plus, manufacturing in large part had unions, which kept working conditions tolerable and pay decent for people, right? Go to the service sector, your restaurants, your retail establishments, and all that, generally not unionized. Generally, the raw materials are dirt cheap. So the way they cut expenses is by cutting labor costs. And when you cut those labor costs, the way they cut labor costs is first of all by paying people as little as they can get away with, right? But second, this is really important for my next point. Steve's just going to go on forever, isn't he? Are you guys taking notes? Some of this is going to be on the test.
Yeah, that'll be a test.
And this is the one that like was my aha moment, because I was like, well, yeah, okay, fine. They pay people less. I get it. All businesses are going to pay people less. This is the thing that's happened in the last 10 years. They looked at another way of cutting labor costs, which is the flexible scheduling. You can cut labor costs by only having exactly the number of people you need at any given time, right? So you've got the lunch rush, you got a few more people come in for that. You got the dinner rush, you get a few more people come in for that, right? But if you're wrong, and if something happens on that Tuesday that for some reason at that local restaurant, you didn't get the lunch rush that you were expecting, or you didn't get as many people calling off as you expected to call off, and you have an extra person, right, for the lunch, the managers are required to send that person home now. And so the employment,
I've heard people talking about that.
So now So now the employment arrangement is you might get 30 hours this week, and you need to be available in case. Oh, that's the other thing. In case we call you to come in, because if the lunch rush is heavier, the manager has a list of people they can call in. If you're not available because you're like, well, I wasn't on the schedule, you could, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get fired. You're going to get your pay docked or whatever, because we called you to come in and you didn't come in. So it's like, if you go in, you might get sent home. If you don't go in, you might get a call to come in.
They can hang that shit in their ass.
So people are quitting. So we're using logic, right? We'll use ridicule in a second. So if you look at share of U.S. teens, this is again, from Pew Research Center, very reputable statistics, and something nobody would disagree with, I don't believe. Fewer teens work now than they used to, back when America was great. So this is one area, again, where we may have some area of agreement. with the nobody wants to work crowd, right? Because they'll go, see, I told you teens don't want to work these days. Well, yeah, because if you don't know whether they're going to need you and you need to be available in case they do, how are you supposed to go to school,
Yep.
schedule your shifts, and schedule your family vacation time, schedule your by the way, summers are like a lot shorter now than they used to be.
Mm.
And if a family's going to build memories and like, be the, June and Ward Cleaver family where they get to go on picnics together and have a dog and all that stuff, you got to have some predictability in your schedule so that you can schedule those picnics, schedule the barbecue, schedule the piano lessons, horse riding lessons, go on vacation together during the summer. And then during the school year, you have to have predictability so you can schedule your shifts around your school schedule. Well, with all of these companies going to this flexible scheduling thing, it's so unpredictable. So my son wants to get a job and he wants to work.
Good for him. He's one of the good ones.
By the way, he worked his ass off over the summer at a horse barn for camp.
Yeah. I'll bet.
During the 2 hottest weeks of the summer. It was in the high 90s. My air conditioner went out on my car.
Oof.
So I'd take him and pick him up. I didn't have any air conditioning in the car.
He's riding on the roof trying to cool down after.
Exactly. There's like sweat and horse manure dust flying out of his hair.
Yeah.
But so yeah, he works hard. He's not afraid to work. But what we're dealing, and by the way, he's an entrepreneur as well because he's got a little side business going where he'll go to Goodwill, buy some stuff, and find an arbitrage there where he can resell it by cleaning it up and remarketing it and stuff. And now he's selling stuff online. He's made like a few $100 doing that. Right? You buy it for $4.99 at Goodwill or $1 at Goodwill, and sell it for $15 or $20. On this place called Poshmark. Shameless plug.
White's name down, house full of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so now climbing down off of my lectern. I'm coming out from behind the lectern.
Yes.
And we're gonna get to what does this have to do with parenting? I can hear people
where
listening.
The organist starts playing that low key note. It's gonna eventually we're gonna go into some hymns,
Yeah, exactly. Now if you get your hymnals out and turn the page. So so here's all I'm trying to do. So I got a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, right? So they're
Good
getting
times.
close to the age where they're going to want to get regular jobs, regular paycheck, all that kind of thing, right? Which is cool. By the way, boomers, in case you didn't notice, we're exiting a little thing called a pandemic. Again, you're like, oh, it's you're right in saying that some people are going to go, oh, there was no pandemic. You cannot deny. All you have to do is walk out your front door and see things were different. Whether you think we should have, shouldn't have, whatever, there was a huge upheaval in society recently.
Yeah. Not just here.
Globally. Yeah.
Globally.
Yeah. Nationwide too.
Well, I meant here as in
and all across Indiana.
and parts of Kentucky.
Anyway. So my focus, it's been how do you do the right thing when things are hard? So the job of what is our job? First, keep them safe so that they survive to adulthood, right?
Yes.
That's one. Two, you want to try to help them learn how to be an adult, right?
Yeah, prepare them for adulthood.
Well, and you want. So I'm not going to list them in order. I'll just go, but number one will always be keep them safe, right?
Yeah.
It's not the only one, but it's kind of the most important one because
kind of the biggest one.
If you don't get that one right, then all the rest doesn't matter if they don't survive to adulthood. Right?
And safety has a lot of other things that fall under it. So
physical, psychological. We could next week on Better Off Dad. Emotional health. is just as important as physical health, and I will die on that hill.
You'll have company.
Because as a kid, if I'd gotten my arm lopped off in a chain, sawmill accident, my life would have been different, right? It would have been like I would have had to deal with having a lopped off arm for the rest of my life, right? So that's a life-changing physical safety issue, right? The fact that I endured certain kinds of trauma changed my brain.
Yes.
And I've had to deal with that. That made my life different.
Yeah.
And I've had to deal with an altered brain for my whole life. What's the difference? Next week on Better Off Dad. So yes, safety, psychological, mental, emotional, and physical safety, right? And by the way, extreme emotional pain can turn into physical problems.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it does.
People hurt themselves all the time.
Yep.
So keeping them safe. And then the pandemic made that job even harder. We probably don't even need to, it's like, do we need to convince anybody that the last 3 years, 2 years, how long's 2020 been going on? 2 years now, right?
Yeah, we're
in
few months.
We're in the middle of year 3
of
of
2020. Yes.
Made it a lot harder, right? So then you want to create some nice memories, because that's the other thing I think is important is as an adult is to be able to look back in your childhood and go, it's some good memories. It doesn't have to be perfect. That doesn't mean going to Disney. We had a lot of conversations about the kids are like, I don't know why people like Disney. I don't even understand. Like, I wouldn't have even, like, if we had gone to Disney, like, I would have a vague memory of it, but it would be no different than our trips to the state fair or McDonald's Play Place.
Complete fabricated surroundings full of pretty much memories that would be better spent somewhere else.
Now, nothing against people that go to Disney. God bless y'all.
That's your thing.
Ancient astronaut, bless y'all, because it is a predictable surrounding. But anyway, so you want to create some memories, have a decent childhood, and then prepare them to be an adult. Independence, responsibility, right? So that's where the work thing comes in. So if the idea of nobody wants to work is we as parents aren't pushing our kids into the workforce and doing the thing that the boomer generation did, which is like, you got to go get a job, pay me rent. When you're living under my roof, you're going to contribute. If that's your idea of parenting, you're totally skipping, keep them safe, create great memories as a family, and teach them to be independent and responsible. You're skipping right to your version of teach them to be independent and responsible. By the way, you're probably the same parent that thought teaching them to swim meant throw them in the deep end and they'll figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Which you just created a kid who's now afraid of water. Now they got to overcome that, right? Because of the trauma you created. Because I don't know where you got that idea. Maybe from your greatest generation parents, World War II parents. I don't know. Greatest generation. Come on. Anyway, 2 weeks from now on Better Off Dad, why the greatest generation wasn't. Okay, so
Tom Brokaw's a punk. This is the greatest generation, my ass.
Cocky.
Don't forget though, these are the same people, and I know this is a cliche, but these are the people that say this are the same people that would be like watching Dallas on Friday night or whatever it was, and a commercial would come on and ask them if they knew where their kids were.
Yeah. Do you know where your kids are?
It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are?
Yeah, they're working.
My parents didn't have a freaking clue where we were.
Mine did. Mine were pretty controlling. They needed to know. They took that safety part really seriously. My mom did anyway.
There was more of us than there were of you. Maybe a couple more kids. Your mom would have been like, he's out there somewhere. He's fine.
You had them outnumbered.
Yes, I did. Yes, we did.
My parents could still play man-to-man. Yours had to play zone. Reference. I don't know if they ever talked about that in any of those sports movies you like to watch.
I love me some sports movies.
So the next time you're at a restaurant or a retail establishment, and you want to say nobody wants to work, just for a second, think about what you're saying and just add nobody wants to work under these conditions for that pay.
Right.
And would you?
Right.
Like if you're
Exactly.
gonna like I don't know, I don't see you going to Walmart and getting a job with your nobody wants to work. You know your brother walking off of the job as a mover, is he gonna run down to Arby's now and get a job at Arby's? Does he want that work? Does he want to work there? Maybe he's maybe he's in the nobody wants to work crowd.
Right.
You know?
Right. I think there's a fair amount of projection going on with that idea, because the people that say like nobody wants to work are the same people that would say like, well, I certainly wouldn't do that. I mean, I wouldn't put up with that, but they do put up with it in some way. But
Yeah.
it's like, well, these people just have to say something. That's what bothers me so much about people is it's not necessary to say something all the time.
You don't always have to say something. You could just stick with, oh man, I guess they couldn't fill this shift today.
That's right.
If you're a Trump supporter right now, everything's Biden's fault, right? If you can't immediately come up with it, you'll come up with something. And it's probably something Tucker Carlson said, right? Which is, payments to people to help them through a tough time. Nobody wants to work. They'd rather sit at home and get government checks. Okay. Set aside for the second, you're forgetting under whose administration those checks started. Okay. You're also forgetting that they ended 6 months after Biden took office.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, on the face of it, it makes no sense. Like you're making no sense when you're like, people would just rather sit home and like on the face of it, like, first of all, your guy started it. Biden actually ended it, and you're still saying nobody wants to work. They just want to sit home and collect government checks. Those government checks stopped already, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's that. The second thing is you're basically saying people would rather sit in an apartment that they can barely afford, be bored, not contribute anything, and all the feelings that come along with not being able to like feel like you're actually a part of something, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You got no social, you got no
Yeah.
and they would rather sit there and get money that is far less than they could get if they went out and worked, right? You're saying that people would rather do that. And those people who absolutely desperately need that, because maybe kids, maybe schedule, maybe they have COVID, maybe whatever their circumstances that's causing them not to be able to work under those conditions, right? Whatever that is, your point is we should take away all assistance to force people back to work, right? And that's probably why I'm losing a lot of friends. Because I have a lot of problems calling somebody my friend who's just like, oh, we just agree on the politics. I'm like, no, we disagree on basic human dignity, right? Yeah. And the fact that we're the richest nation that the world has ever seen, right? Ever. And we're going to say to people, screw you. If you don't get off your couch for whatever reason you're sitting on your couch, I'm going to make it up in my head that you're just lazy and that you don't have circumstances, right? I'm just going to make that up. I don't know if that's true because I'm not going to look into it. I'm not going to listen to anybody's argument about it. I'm just going to pretend that you're lazy and Biden wants to hand you free money. I'm just going to pretend that because it makes me feel better. You and I probably can't be friends because A, you refuse to listen to reason, and B, you just don't give a shit about people. You only give a shit about yourself. You're selfish, and you only care about being right about the last president. We just lost 9 listeners.
Boo! Mic drop. Yeah.
Change my mind. Now's your chance to change my mind. You got my email. You got my Facebook.
There's comment sections everywhere.
Yeah. Come change my mind if you think you can. By the way, 2017, 2018 me would have tried to change my mind on this.
I know. I read your post the other day, and I didn't. I was looking for a GIF of like somebody handing somebody a cookie. You know, be like, "Welcome to our side. We have cookies." You know.
In 2017, 2018, Steve would have failed.
Yeah.
Because I know 2017, 2018, Steve, he was missing a lot of context. He was missing a lot of background, but he did have something that a lot of people don't have, and that is an open mind and a willingness to listen to logic and reason. That having been said, I think we're coming in for a landing here. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, my tank's empty, so yeah, we probably should land this bird.
So great story. Nobody wants to work, including your brother, apparently.
Kids today.
And we'll get our kids out there working. Don't worry. Don't worry, boomers. Our kids, we're going to get our kids out there working too. And just remember, this has been Better Off Dad with Paul and Steve. Just trying to figure out how to do the right thing when things are hard. And it shouldn't be this hard.